sorry. Can't have a face reveal just yet. Plus, I didn't want to have to animate the Commander Cody image on my face throughout this little segment. We got to get all of the equipment squared away for the podcast. You can really help us out by going to the Patreon in the description. All of that is going to making a set for the podcast. And once we get the cameras and everything set up, then you'll be able to see some faces. First, you'll see Ethan's face, the Stupendous Wave's face, and then perhaps later you'll be able to see mine. Not that that's anything special, but hey, I am here to tell you that this is your last opportunity to be able to go to theridge.com/Jedi Gear and use the code Jedi Gear to get 10% off of your Ridge wallet purchase. That being said, 10 out of 10 on the wallet. It has been really good to me, really durable. It's going to be the last wallet you will ever need. It has a lifetime warranty. It's so much better than the old wallets that we've been using for ages. So again, go ahead over to theridge.com/Jedi Gear. Use the code Jedi Gear when you're checking out. We'll go ahead and head over to the podcast now.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Thus Far Nameless podcast. Did you have a name for it this time, though?
The Stupendous Podcast, but you know.
The Stupendous Podcast?
Yeah, that was another suggestion. That's
really?
Yeah. People are still suggesting names for the podcast.
I still like the nameless idea. But if you guys have a suggestion that you want the podcast to be called, leave it in the description down below. Thank you so much for the last episode, which the time we post this will be 2 episodes ago. That's our most highest viewed episode currently on YouTube with 11,000 views. We appreciate you immensely. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're a fan of the podcast, continue to watch and we'll continue to make them and keep, shoveling out content.
Oh,
Is this number 7?
This is the big number 7.
So statistically, most podcasts fail after 7 episodes. So after this, it should theoretically be smooth sailing.
Absolutely. And we have a pretty good system set up, so they'll be coming out on a more consistent basis as well.
Yeah. We've had life stuff get in the way.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. We noticed some of the comments in the last one saying that the news was late. It was new when we recorded, but because things have just gotten absolutely crazy, being able to post that when we did was the soonest that was possible.
Right. Anyway, let's get into it. Today we have a few things to talk about. We're going to answer your guys' questions, but we're also going to talk about Star Wars Squadrons, as well as really focus up on Darth Bane and the fact that apparently over at Lucasfilm they're developing several projects around the Darth Bane character. Did you have a preference of where we start? Do you want to answer questions?
Yeah, that's how we do. Or that's
how we do.
That's how we do. We start with questions and then we go into the topic and then we go into news.
So if you want your questions featured on a future podcast, you can follow me on Twitter at @stupendousswave. That's where I ask them. And your question will likely be featured. We did not get a lot of questions this time around because we haven't had a lot of time in between the recording and when the question was asked. But I think we have some good questions. First off, let's start with Drifter is Darth. What do you honestly think Ahsoka has become? I think she is honestly beyond a normal Jedi or Force wielder. Dave has set up the Gandalf comparisons, and Ahsoka did die on Mortis once before. So I never really thought about that before, but everybody was talking about Ahsoka the White in Star Wars Rebels when she fights Darth Vader, and then, she kind of returns, and then at the end of the series, she's all dressed and cloaked in white. Obviously, in Lord of the Rings, that's to represent Gandalf's ascension,
right?
As in his wizarding ways, Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. I think it's quite possible that we could see a different version of Ahsoka, much more stern and enlightened version. Maybe a mix of the classic Ahsoka that we know with the wisdom of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi or a
right, because I do like
Yoda.
The spunky personality that she has too,
and I think she should keep that.
Absolutely,
because that's integral to the character of Ahsoka.
Right, and I think I like what you said. How if she has that, this kind of the firmness or the not the strictness, but like what you said about Obi-Wan having those kind of attributes as well. I think would be really cool. And I think that honestly she's probably one of the purest forms of a Jedi. Like what a Jedi should be.
I was thinking about this the other day. I think Ahsoka is just about the perfect Jedi.
Yeah.
Even though she's not a Jedi.
Right. But yeah, that's true. She is the perfect She's the perfect person that's a force wielder. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
like holder of great power and stuff like that. But I mean, we've seen characters like Obi-Wan go through a huge change in their character and like who they are from Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars to A New Hope. Like he's unrecognizable almost in his mannerisms. Especially in Rebels, you get the interpretation that Obi-Wan, as he says to Maul, he's like, look what I have risen above, when he speaks with Darth Maul in the desert right before they fight. And you kind of get that a lot in A New Hope too, where Obi-Wan's wise and you get the feeling that he doesn't hate his enemies. You get the feeling that he doesn't even hate Vader when he fights Darth Vader and he's speaking to him like, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. He's very guarded when he's speaking with Vader. You see him in Revenge of the Sith, he's like yelling at Vader. It's much more intense. And you really get the impression that Obi-Wan has grown past these struggles and become a better version of the Jedi.
Right. I think that really encompasses the embodiment of what they wanted the Jedi to be, where I don't want to say that they suppress their emotions, but I mean, they kind of do to a degree.
They control them entirely.
Right. And that goes on the spectrum of, love to hate. And if he's able to control, the love that he has for, whoever, and then he can control the hate that he has for whoever as well.
Which that'll be fun to see in the Kenobi series, that transformation from the Obi-Wan that we see at the end of Revenge of the Sith to the Obi-Wan that we see in A New Hope.
Right.
And how he comes to terms with his own failures.
And I think, kind of suppressing, I think they do kind of suppress their emotions, and I feel like that can make somebody snap, or can make somebody really, break down at some point, and I think that would be really, impactful to see in the Kenobi series as well.
My big thing with Ahsoka, though, is I feel like she hasn't had this gigantic moment of grief that really defines her recently. You can see her expulsion from the Jedi Order as that, but there's no real massive event in Star Wars Rebels that sort of breaks the character down so that now she can be rebuilt, which maybe isn't the plan, Maybe they don't want to break this character down. They want to further this whole Gandalf idea, like the person on Twitter brought up, that she's risen above what a normal Jedi should be, and that maybe the Jedi are flawed, and that Ahsoka realizes that, as Luke will grow to realize that later on. But I don't know. I like the idea of her becoming more of an enlightened, almost prophet-like person, but I think she should still be spunky because that's Ahsoka.
Right. I think so too.
That's kind of my answer there.
Good
but
question.
Ahsoka that's a great question. Thank you. Next question comes from Protocol 36. How would you like Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker to meet, and how do you think their encounter will be like? I think that once Ahsoka figures out that the individual that she's speaking to is Luke, it will be filled with a lot of love. I think that they will probably meet in the comic books. They may have announced an Ahsoka series, which I wouldn't be surprised about, after The Mandalorian, potentially set immediately after the events of Star Wars Rebels. This is my big prediction, because I think that if they're going to do an Ahsoka series, it's going to be in the timeline of The Mandalorian. And you can kind of explore periods of Ahsoka's life before her appearance in The Mandalorian, which is what they've done a lot with Vader recently. They've taken gaps in Vader's life and explored it more in depth. Like, what was Vader doing between Empire and Jedi, and what was he doing immediately after Revenge of the Sith? But I see them going a similar route with Ahsoka. So I do think that they'll meet in comic book form, simply because I also don't think Lucasfilm's ready to recast Mark Hamill as Luke. I think it will happen eventually. A lot of people have brought up Sebastian Stan. He looks a whole lot like him, which I would agree. But I don't think that they're ready just yet to recast Luke.
Yeah, I think that's whenever they recast key characters, I feel like that's really hard to I don't know. For me, when they recast, big characters.
I think I want to go on record and say that it will happen.
Right.
It's just a matter of when, and right now I think it's too early. I think that that's a trick in Disney's bag that they're not ready quite to pull out just yet.
Right.
I see a Luke Skywalker series happening legitimately, but I don't see it happening, before Kenobi comes out. which is 2022 at this point.
Right, so it'll be a while.
It'll be a while, but I do think it will happen, for the record. But if they do meet, I think it will be before 2022, and I think it will be in the comics. An Ahsoka comic specifically. Or perhaps a Luke comic. I don't know. But they will meet eventually, I'm sure of it. Disney wants to make money, and that's a big way to make a lot of money. This one comes from Ibrahim Khan. Will Din Djarin be the next owner of the Darksaber? I freaking hope so, man. I think that would be so cool. With that said, I want Moff Gideon to survive, which I think he will. I'd love to see Moff Gideon be the overarching villain of the whole Mandalorian series. But I do think that eventually Din Djarin will get the Darksaber.
Yeah, I don't know about what season it will be that he will get it, but I think that'd be super cool if he did, because then that would, just make him look super cool and feel. I don't know. I get the feels,
And he could end up being Mandalore, like the next Mandalore, which is like the head of the Mandalorian culture, which I think would be so cool.
Right. I don't want it to be too soon, but I do think that would be awesome, because I think that having that be, a background goal throughout like several seasons of the Mandalorian
is for the Darksaber to eventually get into Din's hands.
Right.
That'd be awesome. So the next question goes with the Darth Bane series announcement, so we're going to table that. But I would like to hear about Star Wars Squadrons.
Okay, so Star Wars Squadrons came out today, October 2nd. And a lot of people, I'm going off of what my brother-in-law said. He said that the trailer was one of the better things that, Star Wars has put out recently. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And so it's coming out on PS4, Xbox, and PC. So a lot of people are pumped about that. It's a lot less expensive than typical.
Is it $35?
It's $40, but it may be. I don't know. I don't know if you might have seen it somewhere else where it's $35. What I've seen is about $40, which is a lot cheaper than a typical brand new game, which is usually around $60. I heard that it has. A lot of people are pumped about the narrative, how it shows, two sides, and it shows like the side of the Empire on their squadron. I don't know, I forgot what it was called already, but how they're still trying to be optimistic even though they've been overthrown, because it's taking place after the Battle of Endor. And they're like, of course they still have kind of a hate-driven theme of or like a power-driven theme, not a hate-driven theme, more like a power-driven theme. And whereas the New Republic squadron has more of a hope-driven theme. And I heard that there's going to be, there might be they're talking about the struggles of trying not to become like the Empire as the New Republic. So that's pretty much what I know about squadrons coming out today. I think it'd be super cool to have, but all I have is Mac OS, and so that's not gaming stuff. But one of the things that I don't know when it's going to be coming out, but it will be coming out with the Oculus Quest 2 VR. It'll be Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, and so you'll get to, I don't know. I think that would be super cool to be able to have an immersive game like that in VR, because there was Vader Immortal, which kind of really gave you the feel of, swinging a lightsaber and fighting along those lines. But I just really love Galaxy's Edge, just because, the first thing that I loved about it was when I saw, a live-action Hondo.
Yeah.
That would, to be able to see that expanded more on in a video game.
Have you been on the ride?
The
Rise of the Resistance? Or the Millennium Falcon ride?
Yeah, where you go and steal the stuff from.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. No. We talked about it in another one, and you told me that one. No, not the. Yeah, it was the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, Honda's on the Falcon.
Yeah, and you said that you weren't really fond of that one, but you liked the other one that I hadn't been on.
Yeah, Rise of the Resistance is pretty good.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it for games. I mean.
I'm not that much of a gamer, so I don't know a lot about Star Wars Squadrons, but I know everybody's freaking out about it.
I want to be more of a gamer, but I just don't have the finances.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
I'm just not much of a gamer, so I bought Battlefront, and Battlefront 2, didn't really play it much afterwards. After I purchased it, I played it once, and I got my butt kicked by my friend, and I was like, I can live without this.
I would rather not be humbled so hard.
Yeah, man. Oh, wow. That was just tough. But I've played both of those games, but not much of a gamer myself at all. But you know what I am a fan of? The Sith.
The Sith?
It's that smooth transition. You like that?
That was about a 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10.
Hey, you're still passing, don't
Yes, that's a B, right? A B. Or B minus.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I get an 85?
Yeah, I'll give you an 85.
Appreciate
just
it.
Because you asked for extra credit.
So Darth Bane. So the Darth Bane news is that there's several projects in development now over at Lucasfilm that will feature the Darth Bane character. Darth Bane is canon as of right now because he appeared in the Clone Wars episode as a vision to Yoda.
Oh, that's true.
That wasn't the actual Darth Bane. It was more of a vision granted to Yoda by the Force, but he is canon because of that appearance. And Yoda knows of him. Yoda says that he created the Rule of Two and that he knows who Darth Bane is. So we know that he did make himself known to the Jedi eventually. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the Darth Bane comic book, though, is they don't know who Bane is. And they really only come to know about him through his legend that's passed on through the Sith. In fact, his big goal in the later books is to not be discovered by the Jedi. And they kind of track down anybody that would know of their existence, and they end up terminating a lot of them. And when the Jedi do eventually discover who he is, the specific strike team, they have to kill all of the Jedi and make sure that they get rid of all of them so that they know that the Sith haven't been destroyed. Because when the story of Darth Bane starts, the Sith are plentiful in the galaxy. And eventually, over time, Bane comes to learn of Revan, who is also canon now, thanks to the rise of Skywalker, actually, where they said that a lot of the Sith troopers were named after ancient Sith lords, like their little legions, and Revan was one of them. So Revan's canon too, in name only, but pretty much what Bane is too. Bane's canon in name only as well, and he also created the Rule of Two in canon. But my big question for this announcement is, what are these multiple projects? Because they could be so many different things. It's not specified what type of project it really is. It's just said like that Darth Bane will be featured prominently. So that could mean prominently in a comic book, prominently in a Disney Plus show, prominent in a movie, prominent in a book. Obviously the things that I would be less jazzed about would be a comic book and a book. I feel like if you're going to do Darth Bane, and I tweeted this, he has a trilogy of books. If you're going to do Darth Bane, there's 3 books, like I said. Mm-hmm. You need to adapt the first book into one season, the second book into a second season, and the third book into the third season. It needs to be 3 seasons of television, starting out with him. His name is Des. Des is a miner, working and just hating his life to the point where he joins the military, the Sith troopers, to his discovering of the idea that he is force sensitive and his training at the Sith Academy to eventually lead to his creation of the Rule of Two and taking of an apprentice. And I feel like you don't even have to end the Darth Bane book with his death like it does in the books. The book does actually end with Bane dying. But I feel like it would be more intriguing actually if the series ends with him taking of his apprentice in Zana and the establishment of the Rule of Two. I think that it should be this consistent journey of that. Mm-hmm. Where it's like you have the first season, you have him discovering that he's force sensitive, and maybe the last half of the season is him training with them, training with the Sith, and his various, battles in the Sith arena and his training to become one of the best lightsaber duelists ever. Okay. Then in the second season, you follow like his path of enlightenment, his discover of Darth Revan and Revan's teachings of there's too many Sith in the galaxy, to his overthrow of the current Sith. And during all this time, the Jedi are trying to destroy the Sith as well. But you can have the second season where Bane goes rogue. And then you have the third season Where, spoilers, once he destroyed the Sith, that now he has to deal with the Jedi that may potentially know of his existence right now and continuing the rule of two. And sort of establishing that for the generations of the Sith to follow. I think that sounds so awesome.
That does sound really good. So you're thinking it's going to end almost on like a cliffhanger kind of thing where he brings in an apprentice, or are you saying...
Yeah, that's how I would like to see it end.
I agree. I don't think that they should end it with him dying, because that just puts a cut to the end of it and then leaves nowhere to go.
Well, not necessarily, because in the books, his apprentice kills him just as he desires her to eventually do. So you could even be like a Zana offshoot down the line if Darth Bane's really successful. But my problem with that is I think Darth Zana is a really cool character, and I would like to see her prominently featured in maybe the last season. Introduce her at maybe the end of the second season, which would fit up with like how the books are. Mm-hmm. So you would follow Bane for the first 2 seasons, and then you would sort of have a dual protagonist for the last season. And if you wanted to, if the Bane series was a major hit, you could follow Zana.
And then have, like, in Zana's own little,
her own little series.
She'd probably kill off Bane in that one and then follow her, or...
Yeah.
Okay. That would make more sense, because
or maybe you could even have a Zana series, and you could flip it around, where now Zana is the main protagonist, and Bane is the,
a secondary
character.
So it's like a dual vision kind of...
Right. Okay. And then you could end the first season of Zana's series with her defeating Darth Bane. Because that's kind of how the book goes. It goes from like Zana trying to hunt down Bane and attack him and like prove that she does deserve to be the one true Lady of the Sith, and Darth Bane believing that she's not worthy of it. Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting conflict. Because for a lot of the book, these two characters are on the same path. They're trying to survive and destroy the Jedi and keep the Sith secret. But it takes a turn where Bane thinks that Zana isn't powerful enough to supersede him. Mm-hmm. So he starts seeking out another apprentice. And I think that would be so cool if it was adapted into TV. And that's a common thread with a lot of television series, mm-hmm. where it's like 2 people start out on the same team, and as they go through experiences, I say team, but they start out, on good terms.
Right.
And as they go through experiences and their life changes and they make mistakes, and one takes one path and one takes another path, they eventually become enemies and come into conflict with one another.
Right.
I mean, look at Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that the writing, if it gets adapted to film, I think that the writing would have to be very, very good, because so
I almost think there's too much for it to be a movie.
No, well, like adapted to film.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's like a TV series,
right? Yeah, like almost a Mandalorian kind of layout where they have long. Well, I would probably make them longer individual. Episodes, like I'd probably make them a little bit longer, but I think the writing would have to be really, really good, because you'd be following 2 characters on the dark side, and I think that...
But here's my rebuttal to that real quick. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So, Bane, as Des, that's his real name, Des, mm-hmm. And he takes the title of Darth Bane because he's like the Bane of the Sith, mm-hmm. like the Bane of the Sith's existence. So you have this character that at first joins the Sith military, and he's really an underdog. He's abused by his father severely as a child, and abused by other people that work in the coal mine around him. And the way that the series really gets you on Bane's side is you really understand that he's like the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to the galaxy. Mm-hmm. So when you see him, join the military and come to realize that maybe I am actually special some way, I think that over the course of that first season, you have the audience on his side. But then it gets even more fun, because Bane starts doing things that you would very much consider evil. And you're getting to the point where it's like, wow, I really like this character, but he's doing some really shady stuff.
Right. Which I think it would be very, very cool, very, very interesting. And like I said, writing would have to be very, good because you're following a kind of a dark path. You're following something that's a little bit more, I don't want to say evil, but it's not, because I think that the light side, I think we could honestly do a whole podcast about like the light side versus the dark side, because there are two ideologies that both people think, like, if, like, let's say I'm on the dark side, you're on the light side. I think that the dark side is the right way to go, and it's not all bad, and the light side is not all good, but let's say you think it's the way to go.
Right.
But anyhow, if we're following somebody on the dark side, if they can pull out those, they're still good in the dark side, and they have to
make you question it. Yeah,
and they have to make you. Because you gotta still, when it comes to making movies and films and things like that, you gotta still give people, kind of still the good feelsies, feel okay about it, because if you're watching something that's dark and
I would say sometimes, but also if you look at some of the like most widely renowned television out there, it follows the bad guys. Like, think of Breaking Bad. I don't. Have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
I have not, but I've heard so much about it. I know people in comments can be like, he hasn't seen Breaking Bad. What's wrong with him?
But that's how I think. I think of like a Breaking Bad or like a Dexter, where in Dexter it literally follows a serial killer that kills serial killers, which would be really similar to like a Darth Bane type series.
Right.
And Dexter is very much the protagonist in that series. And Walter White is very much the protagonist in Breaking Bad, where you have these despicable, evil characters, and it still works as the protagonist.
Right. I don't know. I guess it's just like, well, I don't know.
You have a hard time seeing it in Star Wars.
Well, I mean, I feel like Star Wars would be better about that, because, like I said, the light side and the dark side are ideologies, and you can still, you can have Darth Bane be like, wow, there are too many Sith. It is too like there's too much of them, and I need to get rid of them, which is still kind of a bad thing to do. But
but the Sith are the bad guys,
right? So it's like he's like, what's the word? Like a
vigilante?
No.
I don't know what you're thinking about.
I'm trying to think where he's not good, but he's not bad. And he's taking care of like whoever he wants to take care of. I don't want to say, forget it. You know what? I just kind of
he's more gray. But
yeah.
The character of Darth Bane is very much a Sith and a dark side wielder.
Right.
But he doesn't agree with the Sith of the time.
Right.
Which would be kind of cool. Think of it more like
he wants to refine everything.
Almost like a Batman type thing.
That was like he's a vigilante, right?
Yeah, Batman's a vigilante.
That's what I was thinking about. I wanted to say vigilante, but I was like,
I said vigilante, and you said no.
But you gave me a look like vigilante. Like, are you? What is it? And I was like, I don't know, and I backed into my shell, and now I'm. But yeah, I know what you're talking. Exactly. That's what I was thinking about. Like, he doesn't follow anybody's rule. He follows his own thing, and
he has his own set of moral
Star
codes.
Wars Batman.
Star Wars Batman.
Yeah.
Darth Bane is somewhat like a Star Wars Batman in like the planning, but it's not like a continuous battle for the, soul of the Sith like Batman is for the soul of Gotham. It's more like, this is my plan to supersede the current Sith, and it's going to work. But I think it's so satisfying stories where it's like somebody starts off at the bottom, and then through manipulation and power and being cunning is then able to become the top dog. Like, I really like stories like that.
But it's so dark and so, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be really cool, and if they came out with it, I would totally watch it.
Yeah.
But
I think it would be huge. I think a Bane series would be huge, where it's like, now it's the dark side's turn to tell you a story.
That's true. And like with a lot of, like you said, a lot of television, they're kind of following, they're making bad people protagonists.
Yeah.
So,
which, don't get it twisted, Darth Bane at the end of the story is very much a bad person. His goal is power, and he wants to attain that power. But that's kind of what I would love to see, is a character that you identify with at the beginning of the series that transforms into this despicable character that you want to see win because you've invested so much time, but morally you see that he shouldn't.
Yeah, I just see kind of a... are you familiar with I know you say you're not a big game person, but are you familiar with The Last of Us 2?
Yeah.
That game?
Uh-huh.
I feel like I don't know, like that kind of follows a whole vengeance story. And, you're still kind of rooting for them, you're like Ellie, you're kind of rooting for her, but you're like, but she's still kind of on a vengeance trail and she's killing everybody on her way. And it's just that ends and it doesn't feel good. And I don't think Last of Us 2 is going to age well for at least story purposes. I mean, obviously the graphics were phenomenal and the gameplay was really realistic, but I don't know. Maybe, like I said, that's why I think if they do a Darth Bane series like that, the writing and the acting has got to be like top-notch stuff, and the cinematography, things like that. It's
right.
gotta be absolutely top-notch.
And I think it will be. I mean, I think it would require a bigger budget than The Mandalorian.
For sure.
But I think that with the success of The Mandalorian and with the budget that Season 2 seems to have, I feel like they could definitely pull it off.
Yeah, and Star Wars
because Season
fans.
2 seems to be big.
Yeah.
Seems to be really big, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I think Star Wars fans, if they hear a Darth Bane series, I feel like it would blow so many people's minds. They'd be like, I am all on board. So I think if they did it, it would be successful. My hope is that, like I said, it gets done well and it ages well. Like The Mandalorian is going to age super well because it's just done so well.
Right.
But
well, that's about it. It's a little light on the news, but I think it's cool that we focused on Darth Bane and all that. But now we'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you have any parting comments?
No, I don't. Other than, just like, comment, subscribe, show support for this podcast. I really enjoy doing these podcasts. I think they're a lot of fun. I really love interacting with the audience as well. And also, just share it with other people. And I think I'd just love to see how it has grown so far and how it will continue to grow. And I'd love to get things all squared away, set up, and then
live stream it.
Yeah, or just record it first for a couple of times, and then eventually we'll start live streaming these things, and you guys can be in on the conversation.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much. We love you. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.